Breaking Down the Borders. I'm Linda Furiate. With me today is Lynn Bell, a consulting astrologer and longtime tutor. Lynn, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Linda.
Good. Well, you've been a practicing astrologer for over 25 years and have written numerous books. Can you elaborate a little bit about your teaching as well as your writing?
Oh, well, I teach, I live in Paris, as you know, and so my teaching is dual, which is appropriate for a Gemini. I teach in French sometimes, and I teach in English. Since 1995, I've been teaching at the Center for Psychological Astrology in London, and I work a lot as a guest tutor. I've been doing a lot of traveling in the past 12 years, and I often do seminars and classes as a guest teacher in schools all over the world. So I love doing that. I love meeting different people. I've never been a teacher who's taught beginners first year, second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year. I've never done that.
So then where is your teaching as far as, what level of astrology teaching do you do?
Well, I would say that I do all levels. I mean, I try to it's very interesting. Recently, I've been doing more speaking or teaching for groups that are non-astrological. So I've actually stepped into teaching for a wider public. And I think that you can teach very deeply and very intelligently, even when people don't know much.
And so how did you come to start working with Carolyn Miss?
Oh, Carolyn has been a friend of mine since the early 1990s. She is, we're both from Chicago. And I met her, there's a very strange story to how I met, she pronounces her name Mace. Yes. And there's a strange story to how I met her. I'd been hearing about her, and one day out of the blue she called me and said, I've been hearing about you and we need to meet. So that is how we met the first time. I mean, it was and then we didn't actually physically meet until about 6 months later. But we had an immediate bond and connection, and Carolyn's been a very good friend. I've only started working with her, though, since about 2002.
Now, your talk for the Breaking Down the Borders conference is on Saturday, November 20th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's titled Vampires, Enablers, and Transformers, and it's looking at the 8th house. Tell us a little bit about that, and what can we expect to hear during your lecture?
Well, I'm very interested in the 8th house. Traditionally, the 8th house is a place where the worlds open, the doorway opens between worlds. And in modern astrology, of course, we look at the 8th house from a psychological perspective. And so this notion of the door opening, the 8th house, you can't experience the 8th house without including other people. And other people, vampires, of course, can be heard on many different levels here. And I want to surprise my audience a little bit, but I'm really talking, Carolyn in her work talks about the vampire archetype as an energetic, as people who need to take energy from the world around them. And we're certainly going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about the whole idea that not all of us, some of us believe that we cannot actually live on our own energy alone. And this belief may be unconscious or very subtle, but we find other people who give us something that we need, or who, most people don't, of course, think of themselves as those who drain others. But I mean, obviously, some of us have to be in this category. So I'm going to be talking a lot about the 8th house because it's a very mysterious place. And a lot of the shadow energy that people don't like to look at is often found there. And I also think that the 8th house opens us not just to other realms psychologically, but other realms. The tradition, the magical tradition, would say that this is where astral travel is, or this is where the boundary between life and death is. And so we can also look at the 8th house on that level. Enablers, of course, are those people who help people to keep doing these kinds of things. And I'm going to use a lot of chart examples, and I think really looking into the world of the eighth house, even in our, and for each person, it's not just about other people. It's not just about, lifting the curtain on the bad guys. It's also about seeing what in our own charts and in our own way of being in the world actually does tend to empty other people out. So, and how can you use that energy? I think eighth house energy is extremely important. I personally believe that the eighth house only comes into its full power when you are able to bridge energy between self and others. And it's just that there are many, many ways to do that, and there are many intentions behind the way that's done. So, that's a beginning.
Now, when you talk about the eighth house, I mean, then of course we're talking about Pluto and Scorpio and that sort of thing. Will you look at, where Pluto is in the chart and where Scorpio is in the chart and the eighth house? Because obviously they can all be in 3 different spots.
Of course, I will look at those things. And of course, I'll look at the eighth house ruler. And probably to a certain extent at the moon, because, where there's I think the vampire is not just about Pluto. I think there's also the vampire's victim, and the vampire's victim is the Neptunian, right? Who's you remember all the old horror movies where the innocent bride sleeps in the room of the castle, and the branches of the trees rub against the window, and you suddenly see her horror and her fascination. And so I think there are many ways of approaching the eighth house, and there are many ways of being initiated into a realm which is frightening, which is difficult to understand, in which we can place a lot of projections, and also literally give up our energy to someone. So I don't think we're only talking about Pluto here. We're also talking about the Neptunian part of the paradigm. And, if we were traditional astrologers, they would be jumping out of their skin saying, what, you can't just talk about Neptune and Pluto. So I will also look at it through the more traditional rulers of the eighth house to see what is going on in, which side. So I don't know, Linda, for you, which side are you on? Are you a person who gets used up by other people, or uses people up, or have you been both, or?
Yeah, it's a combination. My chart signature is Scorpio, even though I'm a Libra, so I understand the energy very well. So why do you enjoy being an astrologer?
Oh, I basically am fascinated by people, and and astrology allows me, I think that's the first reason. I'm a consulting astrologer, and I work with people all the time. I do that every day, and also I think that one of the things is that astrology, for me, when I step into the space of an astrological consultation or of teaching, I'm actually stepping into a very powerful space of connectedness to something much greater than myself. And through that space, I connect to other people. And I feel it's a very privileged role to have, to be in this position and to step into that cosmic alignment with other people. And to do very, very deep work on a psychological level in that space.
Now, how can we learn more about Lynn Bell?
Do you mean where do you go on the web?
Sure, exactly. Your books, your website.
I mean, the best thing to do is, believe it or not, I don't have a website. So you can find me on the CPA website or on Star IQ. You can type in Lynn Bell Astrologer, and you'll get a lot of information about me and what I'm doing. And, one day I might get more organized about all this. So, but at the moment I'm so busy, I keep thinking, tomorrow I'll do it. So that tells you something about me.
Right, it just says you don't need a website.
Well, perhaps.
Lynn, we just have a couple of seconds left. Do you have any closing remarks?
Well, I think it's very exciting to be involved in this online conference, and you seem to be a wonderful team. You've got a lot of great ideas on how to put this forward, and it's a great idea to do an interview. And I'm really looking forward to meeting the people who are going to be signing up and watching this. And I hope there'll be a way for us to get some feedback. So I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Well, then we are out of time. This is Linda Furiate for Breaking Down the Borders. Thank you so much.
Thank you.